right. You ready to go?
Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome back in, and welcome to another episode of The Pixel Show. I'm really excited today because we're going to launch a new segment that I call What Lens Should I Get? So, this segment, What Lens Should I Get? Really, it's a very simple title. It's really an idea that I got off Facebook and other groups that people say, well, what lens should I get? And as you know, I'm a Sony artisan, so we're going to talk a lot about Sony products, but we're still talking about focal length. So whether you shoot Canon or Nikon or whatever it is that you shoot, some of this will apply. You know, of course, we're going to talk about some Sony specs. But today, the lens that we are going to talk about is the 24 to 105 lens. This is a G lens. It's an f4 lens. So let's get into it. What lens should I get? Of course, you know, we're talking about the 24 to 105. The best kept secret. The reason I say that is because to me, it was kind of a secret. Like, I had known about this lens, but it was a f4 lens and 24 to 105, and I already had a 24 to 70. But I kept hearing people rave about this lens and saying how amazing it was, how sharp it was. So I think it's one of those lenses that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but as you will find out, and as I found out, it's really quite amazing. So it's pretty lightweight. It's very compact. As you see, it's 23.4 ounces, so it's not very heavy. And it's just one of those lenses. This is kind of like an everyday, you could use this almost for anything lens. If you want to geek out a little bit, the cool thing about it is from 24 to 105, it stays f4 constant all the way throughout. So the light doesn't change. It's a very bright lens. Even at f4, you'd really, really be surprised. And then it's an excellent choice for really both stills and video because it has that range. Like I mentioned, it's a great walk around lens. Like if you were a street photographer and you wanted one lens, or you know, when somebody says, what lens should I get? And you want to try a Sony lens, could be a great first lens. 24 to 105, it covers a broad range. You could shoot portraits with this. I mean, there's so many things, but great for video too, because it's f4. You don't, in some instances, you need a little wider aperture than f4, but the fact that it stays constant from 24 to 105 is great for both video and still. A few little things about the lens, as you can see, button on the side where you can program anything to this button if you want, whether you want to program eye autofocus or anything that you want, you can program to this button. It has, of course, your zoom, your focusing. You can click it on and off for autofocus to manual, which I really like. A lot of the Sony lenses do that. I keep the camera on autofocus, and then if I want to go to manual, I'll just click the lens off and use focus peaking when I'm doing it. And of course, it has the optical steady shot built into the lens as well. And as far as size-wise dimensions, for those of you that want to know that, it's 43.5 inches long and 3 3/8 tall, or wide, I guess, or 83.4 millimeters to 113.3 millimeters. And the filter diameter for this lens is 77. So for those of you that use polarizers, neutral density filters, anything like that. Okay, so I mentioned this already, but the sharpness of this lens, its corner to corner to sharpness is amazing. You like that? I actually have an image shot with this lens of Amaze, so I threw it in here. I really love puns. You might get sick of them as you continue to watch our show, but I'm going to throw them in there, and you're going to have to like them. All right. So here's some images from a job that I just recently shot. I shot this opening fashion party, and really cool lighting in there. There was models on pedestals. So the image on your left is the full-length vertical image that I took. And then the image on the right is the cropped in version of the same image. So you can actually see how sharp this is. And just to show you that, then here's that same image full screen. And I was walking around, just so I shot this with my A7S III, and I was literally walking around letting the camera autofocus and just pointing. I wasn't even looking through the eyepiece. I was just pointing at the models, framing and doing my composition, looking at the back screen. And so the focus is really like her eyelashes. I mean, if you could blow this up even more, I could show you that her eyelashes are really tack sharp. But even at f4, look at the background. It's nice and soft. Everything's, still goes out of focus nice. But here, I'm going to show you. Here's one other image. The model is giving it the 24-105 salute of approval. But here's an image from there just so you can see the XF data from it. So I was shooting at a 40th of a second at f4 at 800 ISO. And so even at f4, again, like the backgrounds go out nice and soft, has really nice bokeh. I mean, of course, you're going to get a little bit better bokeh with, some of the wider aperture lenses. But again, for this lens, which I believe is about a $1,400 lens from Sony, it's a really great value for the price of the lens. Still a little on the pricier side, I guess, but still Sony lenses are much cheaper, I think, in some instances for your better quality lenses. All right. Now this image, again, of course, shot with the 24-105. This is from October of last year. I took a little personal trip and wanted to photograph the fall. So I drove to Door County, which is a little peninsula just to the east of Green Bay in Wisconsin. And I was looking for fall foliage to shoot and interesting things. And so this was shot with that. Really nice, rich colors that it produces. And again, sharp. You see I'm a 6/40th of a second shutter speed and 5.0 or close to 5.6, but at a 50th ISO. I really wanted a nice, clean image. And again, the great thing about this lens is it's, like I mentioned, it's such a walk around. You can walk around with the lens. You get a nice wide opening at 24, and then you can zoom into things too if you need. So great for landscape, portrait, if you will. If you're just going to buy one lens. The sharpness, again, I can't stress how amazingly sharp this lens is. I was really, really blown away when I first got this. Now I'm showing you a wedding image. I am a wedding photographer and I shoot a lot of weddings. And this image, if you look at it, and what I was really shocked, this was the first time I kind of saw an image. I saw an image from this lens, and I was like, oh my gosh, if you look at this, the guests are in focus from the back of the church to the front of the church. I'm 1/60th of a second. I was in the balcony at f4 at 10,000 ISO. It was a little dark, but even look how clean it is. Again, this is also with my A7 III, the bride walking in. But I said, like, if I blew this image up to a 40/60 and I hung it on the wall, the bride, or if the bride hung it on the wall, she would have a portrait or a face picture of every single person that attended her wedding because it's so clear and sharp from front to back. All right, the next image is a candid image from a wedding. And this is something that I do. I'll hang out with the bride getting ready, and I'll shoot candid images prior to the ceremony. And I just love this image. Again, here I used it zoomed in a little bit. Again, I'm at 1/60th f4 at 10,000 ISO. But you can obviously tell what happened in this image where the little boy, little ring bearer, stepped on the veil or the back of the dress. And he's like, what? And the little girls are reacting to it. And it's just a moment. But the fact that I can like zoom in and or have a wider shot if I want. I use this a lot when I spend that last 20 minutes with my bride before that we walk down the aisle. Because again, it's such a versatile. If I need something wide, I've got it wide. If I want to zoom in, I can zoom in. It's a great portrait lens. You could use it if you're a portrait photographer or you shoot portraits. Again, maybe as like your first lens. But it's really a great all-around lens. Like I've said, you can do a lot with it. But here I shot a family portrait with is a local family friends of ours, and they wanted a winter portrait. It was snowing that day. So I literally just grabbed the camera And I was like, I'm going to shoot the 24 to 105 because I wanted to see even more detail. I wanted to see like what it did with the snow when I shot the portrait. And as of course, if you can see it snowing. You can see the snowflakes in the image, especially in front of the blacks on their clothes. This image is from the fall, this previous fall. We had one day in fall, probably middle to late October, where it actually snowed. And I was super excited because I was like, I want to go out and get summer, or I want to get winter mixed with fall. Because how often do you really get to see snow on fall color leaves? So I went out to the local arboretum here and I looked for images. And again, here I'm at f4, I'm wide open, but you see how soft the background is. I wanted to focus on the snow and the yellow on the leaves, but I did want the bench and everything in the background to be a little bit soft, so it really accentuated the snow on the leaves. So you definitely get that here, even with an f4 lens. I didn't need 2.8, I didn't need 1.2. You know, I got a really nice image with just an f4 lens. So that's it. I'm going to leave you with a final tip, what I call a tip from the field. And that's a little bit what I alluded to before. Those of you that shoot weddings, one of the best things you could do to improve your wedding photography is not photograph the bride walking down the aisle. Now, I know that sounds crazy. You have to have a good second shooter because I still ask my second shooters to do that. But what I do is I put myself and I hang out with the bride for the last 20 to 30 minutes prior to her walking down the aisle. And I sit there with her. I'm sort of like a fly on the wall. And I photograph everything that happens, you know, her standing with her parents, dad, whoever walks her down the aisle, and anything in between. And I do actually photograph her walking down the aisle, but my shot's always from behind. So earlier you saw the shot from the loft from behind. My second shooter was in the front. This image right here is the bride was waiting her turn to walk down the aisle, and the flower girls were like playing with her and making her smile. So you really get a ton of really fun and emotional images that come out of this 20-30 minutes. So if you've never done it before, take the chance, take the risk. Get a good second shooter, have them shoot the shot from the front of the aisle, and you hang out with your bride. And I promise if you start doing this, you're going to start to get some really great emotional images, probably some of your favorite of the day, which end up being mine as well. So that's it. Thank you for watching another episode of The Pixel Show. Of course, you can find us all over the web at ThePixelShow.com, which is an ongoing project, but we're getting all the content up there as well. Of course, here on YouTube. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please follow us at ThePixelShow YT. The Pixel Show, we have a Facebook page, and Instagram is at The Pixel Show. But please subscribe. Please tell your friends. And if you like what you see, give me some feedback, comment, tell me what you'd like to see. I'm all open ears right now. I want to hear, I want to kind of form this show, and I have my segment ideas. We have 4 or 5 different segments up now, and we're going to try to do 1 episode a week and keep going and grow from there. Pretty soon we'll do some live shows and answer your questions. But again, thank you very much for watching The Pixel Show. I'm your host, Robert Evans.